As promised, today's video is full of brand new Christmas DIYs to give you even more inspiration this season. For years, I have been wanting to create this tall, simple, lantern-esque type of project, and I'm finally going to do it. So I picked up 6 of these 3/4-inch square dowels from Michael's. You could really use anything for this. Furring strips would work great, or a 1x2, a 2x2, anything like that would work just as well, and depending on the look that you want, you could even use round dowels. Michael's has plenty of affordable options to choose from in all different sizes. But I picked up 6 because I need 4 for the side pillars, and then I wanted to also cut pieces down to create a box only using the dowels. I measured the length and divided that by 4, and that's how wide my box is going to be. Now, instead of marking each section, I drew a line for the first one, and then I used that as a guide to cut down the remaining pieces. I gave all of the dowels a quick scuff sand, and then I started to assemble the lantern. I like to use this wood glue super glue that you can find at the Dollar Tree. It sets up pretty quickly and it holds really well. I also use my brad nailer for an immediate hold and for some stability and support. Now, you could use one of those wood shadow boxes as the top and the bottom. That would eliminate the need to have these side dowels that I used, and you could just glue each dowel down into the corners. But I had some MDF on hand and I didn't have any of the shadow boxes, so I did it this way and I just cut down a piece of my MDF to fit. Next, I painted the whole thing black. For the inside, I wanted to have like a long cascading garland hanging from the top of the lantern box, so I grabbed a few long greenery picks from Hobby Lobby and I started attaching them together with a floral tape. You certainly could use actual garland as well, I just couldn't find one in a style that I liked. Once I had the garland as long as I wanted it, I spread those stems of the top too so that they would be straight out. This is how I'm going to attach it to the MDF top. At the top of the garland, I felt like the stems were showing a little bit too much, so I added a few scrap pine pieces to cover it up a little bit more. And the last thing I added were some fairy lights for a more Christmassy vibe, and I love how this turned out so much. Originally I had planned to add some ornaments to it, but you'll see in a later project that didn't really go according to plan. A few years ago, I made over these Dollar Tree Christmas Village houses, and this year I want to do something a little bit different with them. Now, the Dollar Tree houses are lightweight and plastic, and I found these ceramic versions at Walmart for only $2. I thought that was such a great deal for the quality, and I picked up 3 new houses. You've probably seen plenty of people do this project here on YouTube, but I'm going to turn these into little gingerbread houses using this warm caramel color spray paint. It is the perfect color for getting that gingerbread look. I gave the houses 2 coats of spray paint and I flipped them around in all different angles to make sure they were completely covered. Next, I took my white puffy paint to add all of those icing details. Now, you could also use a paint pen or chalk marker to do this. The puffy paint just adds a 3D element to look more like icing. This is such an easy and fun DIY to do, and I know you can buy gingerbread Christmas decor now. It has been popular for a few years now in stores, but this is a fun way to do it yourself on a budget. This project is a DIY dupe from Pottery Barn. This ceramic snowman cost $30, and I can make it practically for free since I have all of these supplies on hand. I'm going to use styrofoam balls and air dry clay. Now, I like to make sure my air dry clay is sealed really well, so I keep it inside of a Ziploc bag, which is then placed inside of an airtight container. I used to just use a Ziploc bag, but I found my clay would still dry out pretty quickly, and this way it lasts a lot longer. I grabbed 2 different size styrofoam balls and I glued them together. I have my hot glue on low temp here because it will melt your styrofoam. And you need to hold the pieces together tightly until that glue hardens, otherwise they will just start to spread apart. Next, I'm taking my clay to roll it out, and I wasn't sure if I had grabbed enough clay here, but I made sure to immediately put that package back inside of my Ziploc bag and container. Like I said, it dries out quickly, and if I left it sitting out while I work, that top layer would start to get hard. So I rolled out my clay into an oval type shape. A rectangle would also work, but made sure that it was long enough to wrap all the way around the large styrofoam ball. The Pottery Barn version looked very handmade and had lots of dents and divots all over the surface of the snowman. That's why I thought the clay would be perfect for this project. As I smoothed the clay over his body, I didn't need to worry about my fingers leaving dents in the clay. I did use some clay tools to help smooth out the clay around the snowman's neck where I'd connected 2 pieces of the clay. Then I dipped my finger in some water to help smooth it out. I know we want that lumpy, bumpy look here, and I'm not getting rid of it. I'm just making sure that the surface is a little bit smoother and cohesive looking. This step makes a big difference in how the overall project turns out. Next, I rolled tiny little clay balls to add on as his buttons and eyes. Like I keep saying, you want to keep your clay put away. Just while I was rolling out these couple of balls, the small amount of clay that I did have out was starting to get hard. Now, to add the buttons and make them look like part of the snowman, I used this clay tool that has a flat end on it, and I pushed the clay from around the bottom edge of the button into the body of my snowman. And I worked at it until it was smooth and looked like part of the snowman. I also dipped the tool into some water to help smooth out that clay and combine it all together. I did the same thing for his nose, but I actually think I made his nose a little bit too long. I think this is going to be a fragile point and it might break off easily when I put him away for next year. Something to keep in mind if you do try this one. I tried adding some clay balls for his mouth, but I could not get them small enough and be able to use my clay tools to attach them. So he ended up looking pretty creepy looking, and I smoothed his face back out and let everything dry. Once dry, I took a 220 grit sandpaper to smooth out anything that was a little bit too lumpy, especially around where I had added those buttons on. I felt like he was still missing a mouth though, so I grabbed my puffy paint and I added some tiny circles on this way, and it turned out much better than the clay balls did. There was a small little crack at the neck of my snowman where the two clay sections had joined together, so I filled that in with some patch and paint, and you can't even tell. Then I spray painted the whole thing white and I gave it a top coat and a gloss finish to look more like ceramic. I ended up giving this guy to my mom for her birthday since she loves Snowman, and I forgot to take some photos beforehand, so enjoy this clip of her opening it up.
A snowman! Oh my gosh! Oh! Oh, I love it! He's adorable!
I just made him.
Oh, you made him? Mm-hmm. No way!
Mm-hmm.
Aww.
This next project is my favorite in today's video. I found this Christmas tree shaped glass jar at Michael's. It was a little more pricey at $30, but I used a 40% off coupon on it. I just thought this was going to be the perfect object for this project. I want to give this a faux mercury glass look, and I practiced it on a smaller glass vase first. Typically you use mirror spray paint, and I wanted mine to have more of a gold look than silver. I love the way that this practice one turned out, so on to the big one. Here's the supplies you will need, and even though I'm going for a gold look, you still need that mirror glass spray paint. This is key along with the vinegar mixture. I did 50-50 water to rice vinegar. This was the only type of vinegar that I had on hand, but it worked out great. I started out taping the outside openings to my tree jar, and Luna was so curious as to what I was up to, so she jumped up on the table to help me out. But the spray paint does get on the outside of the jar a bit, so I wanted to mitigate that and I taped it all off. Now, the trick to getting this to look right is you want to keep moving. So I apologize in advance. I blocked the view or I was out of frame at times because I was just so focused on making sure it turned out how I wanted. But the first thing I did was spray the gold metallic spray paint into the jar and immediately sprayed the vinegar mixture on top. Now again, the trick is that you want to keep that glass spinning and keep it moving while hitting it with a heat tool to help dry the paint. I sprayed the gold first because I wanted there to be more of a gold than silver finish, but the mercury glass effect works better with the mirror glass. So that's why I ended up using both, and I alternated back and forth between the two, adding the spray paint and then that vinegar mixture immediately on top. Once I was happy with how it was looking, I took the black spray paint and I misted it on the inside as well. I didn't add a heavy coat because I still want to be able to see through some of those holes and the other colors. This just gives it more of an aged look. I styled it up on my whiskey lounge, and part 2 of this makeover will be coming soon. This project was a fail, but you guys know I love to share what works along with what doesn't. I saw Liz Fenwick create these beautiful plaster-coated ornaments, and I wanted to make them to add on to the garland lantern that I made in the first project. Mine just didn't turn out quite like I had hoped they would. But to start, I spray painted various ornaments in a few different colors. Once they were dry, I mixed up a small amount of plaster of Paris. This stuff starts to harden pretty quickly, so you want to work in very small batches here. But this is also where I realized after the fact that I went wrong. I wasn't supposed to actually mix the plaster. The way Liz did it, she had a cup of the plaster and a cup of water, and she would dip her brush into each before applying it to the ornaments. I think that way she was able to achieve a softer, more subtle whitewash type of look compared to the stark white contrast that I got on my ornaments. I'll have to give this one another try and do it the way that Liz did to see if I get a better result. This project is so incredibly easy. I had thrifted this massive basket months ago for only $3. That was a fantastic price for a basket of this size and condition, but I wanted to share a few ways to style something like this for the holidays. I plan on adding a small Christmas tree to mine, which I'll show you here in a minute, but you could also give a basket a cozy look like I'm doing here with a blanket and a few wintry Christmas picks. I'd picked these ones up from Hobby Lobby last year. For a more rustic or farmhouse feel, you could also add Christmas picks and birch logs. I don't have any birch logs on hand, but you can get these from any craft or decor store this time of year. These long ones from Hobby Lobby would work well in a large basket like I have. But like I said, for me, I wanted to add a small tree. I'd picked up this 4-foot one from Walmart for only $35. Walmart has a ton of options to pick from at a reasonable price for small little trees like this. I believe even Dollar Tree is carrying small trees this year for about $20. But I just put my tree together and I stuck it into the basket. This one has lights on it, but you could certainly add ornaments or other decorations for an even more festive look. I love the simplicity of this one. Well, I hope you enjoyed those brand new Christmas projects, and I'll see you in the next one real soon.